Alrighty, here we go with episode 499. Now, after next episode, I'm going to be doing a full video devoted to comments. But there is one comment I'm going to get to right now. This one comes from regular contributor HIG111. I'm not sure. Sometimes the numbers don't matter. The numbers are added by YouTube. And sometimes the person does the number. So I'm not sure which one this is. Since the name is so short, I suspect that's part of the name. Anyway, when we saw the sake cups in a brief flashback sequence, you could see the tip of the third cup that was out of frame. So there was a hint that there was a third brother. That's very interesting. Now, this was a flashback sequence in Marineford, which shortly after that, then, Ace brings up his name. So it wasn't that far back in time. So we're not talking about this was a flashback from the first 100 episodes, for instance. But he goes on to talk about it, and it's a very long comment. This is a comment from, let me see which episode this is, 497. So, last episode, actually. So, this is very timely. But go there to read the full comment. Basically, what I want to address here is this person believes that a retcon is when. Let me read what he's actually saying here. Something is a retcon in my mind only if it's later addition to the story that directly contradicts past events, situations, or statements. Now, I think that's a valid interpretation of what a retcon means. And I think language changes. Like, what Mr. meant 200 years ago is different than what Mr. means now when we use the word Mr. The word gay has changed, right? Like, trying to think, there's other words that have changed meanings over the years. So this could just be like the fan usage has changed the original meaning of a word, but it could also be occupational. To address the first one, retroactive continuity, retcon, originally meant anything that's come up with after the continuity has begun, you come up with a new idea and you fold the new idea into what's currently going on. So the original definition was it doesn't have to contradict anything. It's just something you didn't have at the start. You didn't come up with something at the start. Now, a lot of times, I think one of the things he's saying is that this is too broad of a usage. Like, yes, that means anything the writer thinks of after the first page could be a retcon. True, but more what we're talking about it's more defined as, like, say your character has two brothers, and that was, you always had in mind the character has two brothers, but you never stated it on the page or on screen that they only have two brothers. You say they have brothers, and then 100 episodes in, or 2 books into the series or whatever, you decide they need a third brother. You never said they didn't have a third brother, so then you put the third brother in there. That is a retcon, right? That's something. I'm not talking about like any development, anything you come up with. Because, that's too broad of a definition to the point where it's not useful. I'm talking about meaningful additions to a story that we're not conceived of in the first place. But in the original usage and the way I use it, it doesn't necessarily have to contradict anything. So it's just, I think we're just coming at it from different directions. I think the point could be, like, unless it contradicts something in the past, who cares? If it's a retcon, right? Like, who cares? Like, who literally cares? So that's kind of where I'm coming from too. I'm saying it doesn't matter. Like, if he didn't come up with the idea of Sabo until he reached chapter 400, because remember, Ace was only created to die, but then he started writing Ace. And so maybe he got to the point where he really started thinking about the child and how they grew up and realized there should be a third person. And at that point, he started crafting it together. He hadn't really thought about it before. So he started crafting it together, and it doesn't contradict anything. Who cares? I'm more talking about how the sausage is made. That's where I'm coming from. That's why I care whether or not it's a retcon. Because I'm curious about everything in this story. I'm curious, when did you develop these ideas? It's almost a question I always ask authors. Where do your ideas come from? And Stephen King hates that question because authors don't know where their ideas come from for the most part. But sometimes they do. That's why I don't like that Stephen King hates that question. I actually like the question, and I'm very interested in the question because I'm a writer. Sometimes you do know where your ideas come from. My idea for one script was because I had just seen Fight Club, and right before Fight Club, I'd seen Secret Garden, Secret Window. There's a similar concept in both movies, and we only ever see it that one way. So then I said, what if I write it the opposite way? And so I came up with the script that wrote the concept that those two movies use the opposite way. So I can tell you literally, where did the idea for this script come from? There. That's where it came from. I know where it came from. I don't know where all my ideas come from, but I know where that idea came from. So I love this. I'm obsessed with this, and I would love to just talk for 20 hours with the author where did every single one of these ideas come from? And it would be like, okay, so you thought of Sabo after this moment, 300 chapters in, and that's when you realize, and then you look back and you realize you hadn't contradicted it. You hadn't written anything that would make that where you couldn't do it. And so then that's when you decide to start putting that in there. I love that stuff. I just want to know how the sausage is made. It's not a contradiction. It's not a criticism of the author. And it could come across that way because, like I said, retcon's used so often, usually a pejorative. And HIG says it's only a retcon if it contradicts previous stuff. And then, oh, look at this retcon. It contradicted this. Like, for instance, the second and third Star Wars movies have retcons. The fact that Darth Vader is Luke's father is a retcon. And it contradicts previous material. Yes, Obi-Wan tries, oh, yeah, it depends on the truth from a certain point of view. That's right, a certain point of view. Go to hell. Cram your lightsaber up your ass sideways. That's a retcon. Come on. It's fine. It's not that bad of a retcon. We get it. It is a better idea. I think the story's more interesting this way, but come on, man. Like, you're contradicting your ass, right? So you could use it as a criticism there. But I don't typically use it as a criticism. I don't see it as a criticism. And here's the occupational aspect of this. The reason why I personally talk about retcons where it doesn't even matter, like people wouldn't even notice it's a retcon, is because I create stories. So I can tell people when I'm talking to another writer, oh yeah, by the way, that third brother, that's a retcon. Oh shit, you put it in there seamlessly. I didn't even notice. Good job, man. That's a good deal. I like how you did that. So because we know it's a retcon, because we're writing this story, we use the word that way. Writers, we typically use the word retcon even when it's not something that contradicts something else, right? So we'll just use it because it is retroactive continuity. We're cramming it into the continuity after the fact, after the story has begun. Some of the best retcons are these novels from the 1800s. Who the hell wrote Great Expectations? I can't remember the author. Was it Oscar Wilde? This is going to bug me. I better look. Shit, I'm a dumbass. Charles Dickens. Jesus Christ. Boy, never get old. Charles Dickens wrote that novel. He wrote all of his novels month to month. Like, he wrote it for a magazine, right? So, like, the first of every month would be the deadline for the new chapter because the 8th of every month they would put it out on, and then it was either a newspaper or it was a magazine. It may have even been a newspaper. But he had a deadline. So he had to have these pages finished or he wouldn't get paid. He don't eat that month, right? So he's sitting there writing a novel month to month. He didn't have time to write the entire novel because that deadline comes very fast. And meanwhile, he's trying to live life. He's doing other things. He's writing letters to people. He's trying to date or whatever it was you do back in the 1800s, right? And he may have had other writing jobs and stuff. So he couldn't sit down and write the entire novel. He had to write that novel month to month. And if you go and you read the novel, you can pick out this. You can see where he would retcon something in chapter 18 because he didn't know in chapter 3 a year ago that he was going to need this character to do this. So what you start to see him do in some of his novels, his later novels, early on he'll introduce characters. Oh, by the way, this is Mrs. Marge, or this is John Samuel, or, he'll introduce various random characters early on in his later novels. And then what would happen was some of them would go nowhere. We'd never see them again. And some of them become very important. He was creating back doors. He was creating opportunities for him later to add to the story to resolve certain plot issues. Now they need to get on a dock and get into a boat. Well, good thing we mentioned this guy back in chapter 2. Didn't say what his job was. Turns out he works at the dock. He was creating trap doors for himself, escape hatches. And that's what you do when you're writing week to week, month to month. Because he was on a strict deadline, he couldn't do it. And nowadays, you write a whole novel before anybody sees it. You can go back and you can put the gun in the safe in chapter 2. When you're in chapter 2, he opens the safe and you look in it, there's no gun, right? We don't mention a gun. But you get to the end of the novel, realize you need a gun in the safe, then you write about it in chapter 2, you go back and you change chapter 2. You can't do that if you're publishing your chapters every month. So Charles Dickens started creating trapdoors so that he could retcon things and he could resolve his stories. This is kind of what you have to do here because the author didn't sit down and write his entire story, his 25-year story. He has to write, we're seeing it as it happens. I think he's done some of these things himself. He's created escape hatches, he's created trapdoors, he's introduced characters he may use later. Some of them he uses, some of them he doesn't, right? And I think sometimes he knows exactly when he introduces a character what's going to happen later, right? He knows exactly what he's going to do. This particular case, I suspect, is a retcon, but I mean it in the way of It's a seamless retcon. Maybe we can say that. We can add a modifier to talk about what kind of retcon we're talking about here. The writing kind of retcon. The seamless retcon. Because this is seamless. Because as far as I know, nobody has been able to come up with a contradiction of this character. Like, we never said if we hung out with anybody else's kids, right? But the fact that his name wasn't mentioned until Ace dies tells me that's the only proof I have. But knowing how meticulous this author is and knowing that he will foreshadow characters 400 episodes ahead, like 400 chapters ahead, he'll introduce Dragon here and not mention the relationship until here. But when you go back and you watch that scene, it's obvious that's Luffy's father. It's obvious when you watch the scene who he is. But it doesn't get mentioned who he is for another 300 chapters. This is the man who does that. This is how far he thinks ahead. But he never mentions Sabo's name until we get to Ace's death. That's the only reason I have for thinking this, that it wasn't part of the original plan. Because I think Sabo's name would have gotten mentioned earlier. They would have shown a quick shot of him earlier. We would have seen the 3 sake cups back in episode 40 or whatever, or whenever we meet Ace and we get the first flashback. We wouldn't wait until a Marineford flashback to see that 3rd cup, right? So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, again, not a criticism. It doesn't matter. I just want to know how the sausage is made. That's the only reason I'm talking about this. I care about the creative process. I'm very curious about it. And since this is the best story I've ever seen and will ever see, most likely if he sticks to landing, this will be the best story I ever experienced in my lifetime. I want to know everything about it. So this is one of the things I'm curious about. Am I right? Did you come up with this later and then seamlessly weave it into the story? Like, because if you did, that's pretty badass. That's where I'm coming from. Alrighty. You know where we are? And you know where we're going. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, what's interesting about that is that the old man's going to have more of an influence than I originally thought. He already wanted to be a pirate, but I wonder if it's going to influence how he starts to become a pirate. These kids are psychos, man. Psychos. You guys are they're going after this stupid tiger again. To be fair, the tiger is a menace. You dumbass. Dude, the comparative size of the tiger to these stupid kids is unbelievable. Shit. Wow, you guys just be getting bitch slapped by this tiger. Like, I cannot believe how big that tiger is compared to these kids. He's tired of your shit too, man. He's coming for that ass. So they're after the tiger. Meanwhile, Luffy's over getting trained by the pirate. Okay, I got you. Man, you need a cannon or something. A missile launcher. Get some catnip. I mean, that was obvious, right? Hey, Ace, what's happening? Hey, you with us? He's got that 1,000-yard stare going again. That's what's going on with Ace. He's pissed. Yeah, Ace is pissed about being abandoned. Yeah. I like that you're trying to take care of his emotions. Just let him stew, man. If he's going to be a whiny little, what do I want to say? Like, if he's going to be this self-absorbed about it, then let him be that self-absorbed. Brooding, I guess, is what we're talking about. I shut down when people leave me. What an a-hole. What an ace-hole. He's stubborn, but I think he's brooding is what's really happening here. Yeah, well, at least you didn't go to the Prometheus school of running away from things. I I recently looked at that channel. Man, they have fallen off hard. Their views is what I'm talking about. Yeah, look at me. It's only been a week. You guys, man, you guys are so dramatic. You're up in your feelings about 1 week. I see. That's not the scale. That tiger is effing huge. We gonna drop a tree on him? The tiger, the yeah, shit, incompetent. We're gonna use our powers against the tiger. That's what we're gonna do. Incompetent. Good shit. You broke his jaw. You got to use the momentum, I assume. More energy so the arm will go further, right? He's so bitter and up in his feelings. Uh huh. So the more he works out, the better he can be. Yeah, I need to unbreak my jaw. He's gonna finally ask some questions about Roger. Huh? He beat you so bad you guys couldn't even look at each other anymore. Embarrassing. Yeah. He don't hate Roger. Oh man, it is what it is. You know. You come for the king, you better not miss. That's just the life. You know. You just gotta get stronger. You know. Yeah, because if it hadn't been him, somebody had been somebody else. You weren't strong enough. They say that Ace never lost a fight. We are going to get a flashback inside a flashback. I knew it. Man, they wrecked your ship. Denied. That's a real captain. Sacrifice yourself for your men. He's going to kick you in the teeth. Or he's going to walk away. But, I would have kicked you in the teeth. Hey, man, shouldn't have came for me. He was a good dude. How dare you talk good about him? Yeah, so people are going to hate anybody, man. Patrick Mahomes has haters. Does that make him a bad person? I mean, I don't know if he is or not, but, the haters don't make it. True. Oh, shit. Right. Right, right. He didn't kill him. That's a good point, man. I never thought about that. That's a really good point. Thought they talked about this in front of the old man. Yeah, I thought they did. Might as well be a pirate. That's something the Navy took away from him right before he died, Ace. They took away his identity. He just became Roger's son instead of his own person. Kind of shitty thing to do. Then don't ask me no damn questions. You really are an ace-hole. You better not come for me again. The old man might have hands. There's nothing I hate more than somebody starts a conversation and gets mad about where it goes. Unless you're, like being a rude asshole. But, that's not what was happening here. If you don't like the answers, don't ask no damn questions. Yeah. I'm going to start training you up because you suck. You guys need to explore the silence some more. We're not going to hear much of this laughter when we get back to the present day, so I'm enjoying this. Is that a ship? Oh, shit. Boat? You wash your mouth out with soap. It's a ship. That's why he's been chopping wood. You want to go sailing? That sounds like work. How dare you? That's not the way that works. Yeah. Yeah, screw that tiger. That dude is too big, man. Like you need to grow up and gain some ass before you mess with that tiger, man. What do you think? He wants to die at sea, right? Hell yeah. You're going out to sea to die. You're not trying to find your crew, man. You're old as hell. I've already decided. What is it? I have spoken. Yeah, he is. Ace is out of here. You're you a man of your word or not? You gonna go with him? It's another one of these things where you got to fight every day. Again, though, the statement was made: Ace never lost a fight. I swear I heard that, and maybe I'm crazy. I thought I heard Ace never lost a fight, but maybe that wasn't a real fight. You know, it sounds like another one of the Star Wars retcons. Hell yeah! So we're got to be at least a year now since they formed together, the three of them. Seasons come and go, maybe more than a year. Yeah, these two are always practicing, man. You're out of your mind. Here it comes. Always at the old man. Just shattered his head. Good job. Yeah, that's got to be on purpose. There's no way you make that accident twice. Yeah, right. Sorry. I thought it was. I think that's stupid. You need the best leader as captain, not the strongest fighter. You need to be strong, but you don't need to be the strongest. I don't believe. Yeah, right. He's not as dumb as he pretends to be. He's such a pissed off little brat. Brooding. What are you? Angel? Batman? He is always brooding, man. Hey, man. This ship's coming together. He wants to come. Don't mess with me, old man. What is it? Yeah, it's obvious, man. You need leadership skills. It's not just about strength. I mean, you got to be a good leader. Part of it is cared about the crew more than you care about yourself. He demonstrated that, so that's why he's a good captain. But that's just part of it. Well, there's a word for this when they put the ship in water for the first time, but it's quite a ceremony. Typically, they'll bash a bottle against it. Really, you just gonna go by yourself? Really? I don't remember the circumstances in which Ace left. I think they were just on top of a cliff, and Ace was telling him he's leaving and meet me out there or something like that. Yeah. I was wondering if it was gonna be with this old man, but I feel like Ace was older than this when that happened. So yeah. That tiger is huge, man. You're out of your minds. They're carrying a grudge. That one meal that tiger ate, it will end up in his life. I believe. I believe they'll kill him. That meal's gonna cost him. Damn, dude. Walk around the tree, you a hole. Just be knocking trees over for no reason. You guys again. We got beef. Dumbass. Again, by the way, if you attack, you're at a disadvantage. Make him come to you. This ain't bad, though. Hey, he felt that one. He didn't feel it like a few minutes ago. Well, shit. Gotta watch that tail. How you gonna get knocked out by a tail? Pathetic. Really? A fishing line? He ain't giving up, man. What are you talking about? He's built like a brick shithouse. You know, I don't know if your pig shirt is really the costume for fighting this big ass tiger. I'm saying it's corny, is what I'm saying. Speaking of corny. Yep, that didn't really do much. He's gonna eat you. Down the hatch, one bite. He's a big boy. Too late. Wrecked. Wait, did he get stopped? No shit. That's crazy. Finish him. We were holding his paw. You need to finish him. You guys are delusional, by the way. That's right. Inspire your men. Is it? He is one big boy. That's right. Use Luffy's power. So, you want to get eaten first. Okay. I don't really take requests. Oh, well, in that case, then it's fighting words. He's out of his mind. That's right. Let's go. Hey, you shouldn't have been talking shit. And he was, too. You talking about kiss my ass. That was hilarious. Boy, that tiger likes to elevate, don't he? Here we go. Booyah. Remember, force equals mass times acceleration. The acceleration makes up for his little mass, right? That's quite a lot of force. You just got knocked the F out. Look at it. Down for the count. Do we even need to count it? I think he's down. That's right. That's how you inspire your men. Hey man, that was an assist. Luffy gave you assists. You can't take full credit for that. Right. I mean, I was gonna say you can't. Like Luffy helped you, man. Yeah. Hell no. You goddamn right. Hell no. So we eating this tiger or what? Or we just need him to know that he lost to us. Unless he wakes up with a grudge, it's not okay then. Yeah, 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 yeah. Take care. That sounds corny to me. Yeah. Man, he's going out there to die. He ain't going out there to have more adventures. Maybe I'm a cynic, but that's how I read the situation. Yeah. I like his flag. This looks like a panel too, right? That's a nice little side quest. Yeah, got to get back to the main quest with this toe jam. Speaking of HIG, he was also talking about how he loves these flashbacks and stuff. He loves all the flashbacks, and they're not filler. And I do like them. Again, like I think I've said this, but just to clarify, yeah, I definitely like the flashbacks. I hate the placement of them, but I think it's okay because it's a binge model, right? Like I'm not upset. Like if I was watching this week to week, I'd be pissed. I'll be honest. I'm just being honest. I'd be pissed if I was watching week to week, and if we were in our second month, like literally, and maybe there's even breaks and stuff in between and stuff like that. So like, yeah, this would not be cool. It's fine in binge model because I know by this time tomorrow I'm going to be watching the current day story. Surely to God, because I've got a lot of these episodes I'm doing getting through today, and I'll do some more tomorrow. By this time tomorrow, we're talking 24 hours. 24 hours we'll be back to the main story. I can wait 24 hours. It's fine. But I'm trying to like experience this in various ways. Like all the time as I watch this, I try to imagine doing this year to year, week to week, month to month. Knowing that if that was the format in which I was watching this, I'd be pissed. I'm just saying, I would be. This should have been in front of the Mainford arc. It should have been before we found out Ace was in danger, because it would have meant more. Like I would care a hell lot more about Ace. Because I'll be honest, I didn't really care about him. We hadn't got any time with him. I cared about him because Luffy cared about him. And that was it. If we had gotten this story before the Mainford arc, I would have cared. I would have been way more emotionally invested in him surviving, and I would have been wrecked. It would have been gut wrenching when he died. Like I don't remember my exact reaction when he died, but like I don't think I was that broken up about it because we didn't have this. This should have been there. I'm just saying. Like I don't make a pimple on the author's ass. Like he's way smarter than me. He's way more creative than me. Better man than me in any way you can possibly imagine in within creation and out of it, right? So I'm not criticizing the king. I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, this should have been before that. They should have put that there because we would have got the same backstory that clearly is going to be necessary to the story. The whole time we could have been wondering, unless Sabo dies here, somewhere in this flashback, assuming he survives this and we think he's an adult somewhere in the world, the whole time we're wondering, is he going to show up to help save Ace? So it's interesting to raise questions that the audience is wondering about that don't even come to fruition. We might think it was him that shows up at the last minute instead of Shanks, right? So it would have added that dimension to it, but also we would have been emotionally invested in, Ace, his predicament. It's hits different knowing that Ace dies. Like now, I retroactively care about him. If I ever rewatch that arc again, with all the spare time I have, I'll feel probably more emotional about it, because we've had more time with him now. So and then the other problem is we want to know what happens now. What happens next? Because we have so many unresolved issues up in the air. The Straw Hat Crew, the hunt for Luffy. What's the government's reaction to all this? What's Blackbeard going to do next? Right? There's all these questions that I'm curious about. I want to see where this all goes, and this is preventing that. So I just think the placement is bad. Is what I think. The story is fantastic. I just think they fumbled the ball there. That's just my opinion. Clearly, I could be wrong, and there could be things about this that would make that impossible. There could be some dimension to the rest of this story that like this is where it has to be. So that'll be interesting to find out. We'll see if I still leave this way when we're completely done with this story arc and we're back in the main story. I'll address this again and see what I think then. But as I see it now, that's how I feel.